Hi, this is Coach K coming to you live on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. This is going to be another coaching session with my Game Changers curriculum, and we will be talking about the social issues of the global world in the 21st century. Martin Luther King Jr.'s textbook, is Strength to Love. You can go out and get it. It's going to be our textbook that we're working on. We are on chapter 13, which is 3 chapters left before we're done for the year on this book. And we learned a lot, gathered a lot of power and knowledge and training from our coach, Martin Luther King Jr., spirit mentor, ancestor. So let's dive in to see what else we can glean for today. We're on Answer to a Perplexing Question, page 129. Armed with his growing faith in the capability of reason and science, modern man set out to change the world. He turned his attention from God and the human soul to the outer world and its possibilities. He observed, analyzed, and explored the laboratory. Became man's sanctuary, and scientists his priests and prophets. A modern humanist confidently affirmed, the future is not with the churches, but with the laboratory, not with prophets, but with scientists, not with piety, but with efficiency. Man is at the last becoming aware that he alone is responsible for the realization of the world of his dream, that he has within himself the power for its achievement. Man was subpoenaed on nature to appear before the judgment seat of scientific investigation. None doubt that man's work in the scientific laboratories has brought unbelievable advances in power and comfort, producing machines that think and gadgets that soar majestically through the skies, stand impressively on the land, and move with stately dignity on the sea. But in spite of these astounding new scientific developments, the old evils continue, and the age of reason has been transformed in an age of terror. Selfishness and hatred have not vanished with an enlargement of our educational system and an extension of our legislative policy. A once optimistic generation now asks in utter bewilderment, why could not we cast it out? The answer is rather simple. Man, by his own power, can never cast out evil from the world. Interesting, right? The humanist hope is an illusion based on too great an optimism concerning the inherent goodness of human nature. I would be the last to condemn the thousands of sincere and dedicated people outside the churches who have labored unselfishly through various humanitarian movements to cure the world of social evil, for I would rather a man be a committed humanist than an uncommitted Christian. But so many of these dedicated persons seeking salvation, within the human context have become understandably pessimistic and delusional, because their efforts are based on a kind of self-delusion which ignores fundamental facts about our mortal nature. That's powerful, okay? But then he goes on and says, nor would I minimize the importance of science and the great contributions which have come in the wake of the Renaissance. These have lifted us from the stagnating valleys of superstition and half-truth to the sunlit mountains of creative analysis and objective appraisal. The unquestioned authority of the church in scientific matters needed to be freed from paralyzing obscurantism, antiquated notions, and shameful inquisition, but the exalted Renaissance optimism, while attempting to free the mind of man, forgot about man's capacity. Yeah. Ooh, that was just thought one. After we did the introduction to that chapter, I'm just gonna make a little marker so I know where we're at next time when we do our coaching session. That is so powerful that he said right here that we cannot. The answer is rather simple. Man, by his own power, can never cast evil from the world, from his own power. See, that's powerful right there. So let's remember the answer. Okay, I'm going to highlight the answer, right? For those, you guys gotta forgive me, because I'm going to pull out some healing products. So while we talking, what I like is I have my own bag of sage, and we can this here is one of my bags of sage. Did I drop something? No, that's just an envelope. So what I'm going to do is just, these are still in the bag. So it smells so good. I'm just going to sit on here to help balance, because we're talking so much about casting out energy. And then I have my rocks for those that want to know what I'm doing. My rocks. So I'm going to put these here today because we're casting out energy, or we're talking about casting out energy. Right? I was going to pull out my meditation card as well. Okay. Here we go. So, some of you guys been asking me to purchase my meditation card. They're $100 donations, so they're a little bit much because I come and speak to you guys on these cards. They're not just numbers, they're also messages. Yeah. So these are my meditation cards, and they help me get into meditation. You know, the rhythmatic, and they already spilling out. Okay, so this is the one. That's, of course, imprisonment is not your future. Your lemons are lemonade. Learn how to make lemonade. Never feel imprisoned, whether in chains, a cell, in difficult times, or in difficult places. You are loved, you are adored, you are redeemed. You are not imprisoned. Do not let your environment condition you. Be a creator. Make lemonade out of your lemon. Do well, and your results will clothe you in robes and crowns of glory. That's meditation. When you pull out a card like that, you think of it over and over and over for that day. That's your day card. So that's why it's $100. And so not $20 or $30. And so those are not getting sold as much, but that's okay. I didn't make them to sell. I made them to bless people that needed them. Okay, so Holy Spirit always speaks, so we're gonna talk about what did King say about perplexing questions. For one, we're gonna consult with our first ancestor, last ancestor, all the ancestors that want to chime in today. We want to talk to and educate ourselves. Knowledge is power. We're going to give the men opportunities to chime in, and the women as well. We're going to try to work on new beginnings. We're going to try to make some improvements by innovating and inventing new opportunities. We're going to have to advance in our prosperity and not be stagnated, because struggle makes us, weak. But we got to stay strong in our struggle, because iron sharpens iron. We get stronger when we condition ourselves to practice, renew ourselves, mind, and we attain perfection through that process of refinement. And there's a lot of struggle, We know there's a lot of struggle, but we know in our heart that a struggle has a destination. We're going somewhere. And we're attaining perfection through the iron, sharpens iron. We will have opposition, of course, in our new beginnings, and we have the Holy Spirit to comfort us, to guide us, to love on us, and to remind us that we're promised for eternity. We're promised to live not in struggle, not in prison, but in prosperity, in liberty, in happiness, freedom. And so the opposition is temporary. It is not permanent opposition. It's just a struggle to define, not to define us, but to build us. And if we allow it to, we'll come to a completion and finished product of who we are eternally. Selah. So, the coaching today is, how do we cast out our enemies? How do we cast out the energy? We're going to focus more on the energy than the humanity. So he's talking about humanity going through all of these processes of humanitarian effort, community building, and trying to resolve the conflict that our natural or mortality instinct have created through programming or learned behavior in our habitual lifestyles or ancestral lifestyles that's carried on through genetics. And how can we break those cycles? And it's like, being having genetic formation of maybe previous things that make us susceptible to things. And so how do we overcome, or how do we take responsibility of these ancestral influences that we call mortality or instinctive learned behavior from our natural primitive self, right? That means 1 million ancestors formulated who we are today. So the question is, how do we take all of those learned behaviors that are instinctive, that are traits in us, that come out through learned behavior programming? How do we take social responsibility of decision making? We have to create an effective auditing system, effective examination system, effective evaluation system. And you can get my book. I talk a lot about, abolishing the criminal justice system through that book, about how do we take responsibility and create a new world, better world, advanced world, and be able to see and understand struggle and, stagnation and all these elements as variables that we have to intervene. We have to engage. We have to mediate. We have to socially, responsibly accountable for the actions consciously, right? For our unconscious and subconscious behavior, primitive or mortal behavior or learned behavior. And so we have to always manage those triggers, manage those primitive decision-making patterns and traits and tendencies, right? So we are talking about not just the brain or the cognitive decision-making, we're talking about the emotional decision-making and how to be mindful, how to be meditative lifestyle, to know that we can be self-government, self-business, self-market, right? God made self-market, self-business, self-government, which allows us to operate on a level of consciousness, meaning a level of, administration, right? Self-administration, where we manage all these decisions ourselves because we think before we do or speak. We put it on a scale, 1 through 10. What will this happen? How this will happen? We can role play, going through a process of projection or forecasting or simulation to make decisions for me, right? We'll call it precursor decision to be preventive, to test out. Like you said, in laboratories, we are scientific to our own behavior, to our own conclusion. And so when we cast out, when I say cast out demons, I'm saying cast out triggers, cast out learned behaviors, cast out principles that are self-destructive, that is group destructive, that is environmental destructive. And what we do with that, it creates this inventive or innovation in us, transformation in us first, and then transformation external. And that's the work we need to do. And that's the work he was talking about, where we have like pretty much hanged on a closet. Our churches turned them into laboratories, turned in our faith and turned it into scientific methodology, right? We have transformed from a faith-based community that was given a fish, by our ancestors, by our first ancestor that we call our creator, our source, right? And now they're teaching us how to fish. And so we are now becoming scientific because we're being taught how to fish. So now we're not living just by faith, we're living by sight or lifestyle or confidence, or by training, by coaching, by mentorship, by discipline, right? By correction. And when we do that, we don't fully need a criminal justice system. We don't need a correction enforcement system if we're all lawful, but based on social responsibility. And so criminal justice system becomes a backseat participant in our front seat autopilot regime or routine, right? That we come together in a social contract, that we are not just self, but we're group actualized, or group responsibility or self-responsibility that is holistic quality standards. We're not talking about this, oh, I'm responsible, so therefore I got to tell you what to do, when to do it, how to do it, because I know what's best. No, we're not talking about that. We're talking about everyone picking up a responsibility, a task, and performing that for the rest of their lives, and then having a balance to have a quality of life, to have leisure, luxury, and recreation as a downtime to restore, repair, and regenerate. And that's what the balance scales of life is. You have to fill a task with your talent, what you're good at. You're not just thrown into anything and everything because that's something you can do, but you love to do it. And then we master things that cannot be done by people because they don't want to do it or they don't have the talent to do it. They can be created technology that performs those, right? And so everyone has a position of power and authority. This creates a world of equilibrium, right? And so the criminal justice system is no longer needed. You don't need a system that punishes or that kills, steals, and destroys or be violation to create what they call falsehood of peace, right? So this is the hard questions and answers that we have to really engage in and know that we are here as promised people. We're here to show the world that this is the generation that all generations was waiting for, to set the tone forever. And the way we set the tone forever is not making examples of people, but to make an example of ourselves. And we become the role model. We become the incarnate light, or the incarnate good, or the incarnate coach, or the incarnate glory and such. And then that changes the game. No longer do we rely on punishment or killing, stealing, or destroying to transform or cast out energy, or cast out behavior, or cast out decision making, or cast out reckless, careless lifestyle. I can make a list. So we don't use that technique. We don't consider it as best practice anymore, because now we're well informed, well established, and well secured in our self responsibility, and then social responsibility, and then corporate or capital responsibility. There's stages of responsibility they juggle and manage. And that's what we're talking about today through the social issues that Martin Luther Jr., Dr. Martin Luther Jr. had spoke about when he was training, coaching, mentoring, and instructing his beloved community, his disciples, his followers, the ones that wanted to be civil rights justice professionals. And so we take it one step further and become social responsible professionals that understand the power of knowledge, the power of training, the power of mentorship, the power of coaching, and the power of instruction. And that there is a game changer. This is Coach K signing off. One love, much love, all peace and blessings to you and your family and your tribe. Hey everyone, this is Coach K coming to you live. Yes, can you believe it? This is what I'm talking about. Trying so hard to change the game, self first, right? And then the world. And I am taking guys on my journey on what it's like to practice, coach myself, teach myself, instruct myself, train myself, and to arrive in my journey. And so I've been working on my album with the Book of Enoch, and I'm going to give you an example of a studio section. So I work with, I have a app called The Loco. If you can see it, you probably won't be able to see it. It's really hard to. So I don't know if you can hear the music or not, but I'm gonna work on this song. So we're gonna see what happens here. I'm going to, there it is. So I'm going to do the song from 18 to 20, and then we got the beat, and then we got the volume. So let's see what happened. Okay, so we're gonna say Coach K in the house, and then we're going to add this little logo that says Let's Play Ball, and then we're gonna add the Let's Ride This Beat, and then we're gonna change our voice a little bit, and we're gonna find the beat, and we're gonna try to ride it, and then we're gonna say these words: Book of Enoch 89, 18, 19, and 20. And then I sit there a little bit and feel the beat and say little stuff like and then I might go ooh, and the sheep went to the wolves in accordance to the word of the Lord, and another sheep met that sheep and went with it, and the two of them together into the assembly of the wolves. Oh, and the wolf spoke to them and warned them that from then on, then they should not touch, and they should not touch those sheep. Do not touch my sheep. Do not Do not, do not, do not, do not, do not. Come on, let's do this. Let's do this again. And after this, I saw the wolves and how they acted even more harshly toward the sheep with all their power. And with their power in the sheep called out. And their Lord came to the sheep, and began to beat those wolves. And the wolves began to moan. The wolves began to moan. But the sheep became silent. And from then on, they did not cry out. And then we listened to it. So now we're going to listen to it. And now it's not going to sound right on this because I use the studio, and the studio adds all the effects and all the cool little bells and whistles, and corrects my pitches and stuff, which is crazy awesome, right? As soon as I save it, I let you guys listen to it, and it's not gonna be perfect because I took you guys on the so I'm gonna take this off, okay? And then what I'm gonna do is turn this on, and then you guys can hear it. Say Coach K in the house, and then we're going to add this little that's like ball, and then we're gonna add Let's Ride, and then we're gonna change our voice a little bit, and we're gonna find the beat, and we're gonna try to ride, and then we're gonna say these words. Could be 89, 18, 19, and 20. And then I sit there a little bit and feel the beat and say little stuff like and then I might go and I see the wolves in accordance to the word of the Lord. And another sheep met that sheep and went with it, and the two of them together into this temple of wolves. So that's the idea. And so you got a chance to sit with me on one of my sessions, my studio session, and I'll be posting a song, and I'll give you the link. Okay. This is Coach K. Signing off. One love, much love, all love. Peace and blessings.